All right, let's go ahead and we'll get started, just so that I don't have to hold you here. I have met now everyone, or knew everyone in the room. I'm Jody Petazzoni, and the office that Kate Humphreys, who is at the back of the room, and I work in, is the Office of Assessment, Accreditation, and Academic Program Planning. And the emphasis today is on academic program planning, largely as it relates to accreditation. This is our annual substantive change workshop. We've been doing this for, I want to say, about 12 years. We tend to get a lot of attention, a lot of really good conversation going in these meetings. And it is one of those situations, I have this comic up here of Homer Simpson who's saying, can you repeat the part of the stuff where you said all about the things? And this is what you're going to be saying. At some point, you might be like, oh, Jody, I think, talked about something like this, and I can't remember everything that it was. So if you have this thought in your brain or something similar, just call. Call me, email me, call Kate, email Kate, and just ask. I'm doing this thing, and I'm wondering if what you were telling me that day that I sat in that room in Petty matters for this. So do not worry if you can't remember all the things, because we will talk through your specific things and we'll get us all on the right page. So what we're going to talk about today are policies. SAC-COC, which is the Southern Association of Colleges and Schools Commission on Colleges, our accrediting body, and UNCG policies related to substantive change and some other things. I'm going to give you some substantive change definitions and talk to you about our institutional obligations. We're going to talk a little bit about some specific substantive change. There's 80 pages of direction from SAC-COC about substantive change, so we're not going to hit all of them. So that's why I want to say you might be doing things in your programs, and you probably want to consult Kate or I before you go too far into things, in case there's some more information that you need in order to get done what you want to get done. We're going to share a little bit of information that might allow you to identify what substantive changes are, but again, talking to us about your specific actions is important. And then, as always, we're bringing you UNC system updates. The UNC system seems to always be changing, whether it's a form or whether it's a date or whether it's a process or whether it's a level of review. So we've got some new information for you about what the UNC system is up to. So my role for the university is as the institutional liaison to SAC-COC. We have one person who is supposed to stay in touch with all of the things happening through our accrediting body and bring it back to the university. And anytime the university is doing something that impacts our accreditation, I'm the one who talks to SAC-COC about it. So I am the key person for bringing you communications about things like substantive change. Substantive change, as I mentioned, currently is an 80-page document with lots of information. And substantive change comes to us through SAC-COC, but really originates from the Department of Education. The Department of Education says to the regional, what used to be called regional, institutional accrediting bodies, that they need to know the big changes that are happening in all of their institutions. And those big changes are called substantive changes. And the Department of Education identifies very specific ones. For example, if a university has never offered online learning before and now wants to, the Department of Education says to SAC-COC, you need to know about that, and you need to understand whether they're doing it well. And that's what substantive change is about. It's not about micromanaging what we're doing. It's the accrediting body asking us, are you really ready for this new thing? Is it moving your mission, or is it moving your resources in such a way that it's going to impact how you operate, and it's going to impact how you interact with us? So the Department of Education is saying to SAC-COC, make sure the institution has accounted for these things, largely for students, but also for faculty, because these changes often impact how a student can move through or not move through a program, and whether faculty have the support that they need to do these things. So we are accountable on most questions to tell them how it impacts students and how it impacts faculty. And before I leave this, I need for you to keep this in mind as we're going through everything that I'm talking to you about today. Credentials is the key word for the Department of Education and SAC-COC. And a credential includes degrees, but it also includes certificates. We might be talking about a 9-credit certificate, and everything I'm telling you applies. So keep that in mind, okay? And this is important because I'm going to tell you soon that certificates are coming to our undergraduate populations, if you aren't aware of that already. So substantive change, this is the substantive change policy and procedure that comes to us from SAC-COC. As I said, it's many, many pages. It went through a major revision in 2020, and we brought you a lot of those, but then there were also minor revisions in 2021 and 2022 that I need to bring to your attention. So this policy was revised in 2021, and you can find links to the SAC-COC document there if you are bored one day or can't sleep and really want to read through some drab stuff. And some frustrating stuff, if I'm being honest. A lot of it requires us to have additional conversations. They give you 3 bullet points, and then you're like, okay, I've got 90 questions coming out of those 3 bullet points. And the answer from SAC-COC, luckily for me, is always, well, it depends. So that's fun too. So I may be saying to you, well, it depends. Tell me a little bit more about what it is that you want to do. I can't tell you go left or go right until you answer a couple more questions for me. So this is 5 highlights that come out of the most recent policy revision. This is one, the very first one. All method of delivery changes require notification to SAC-COC. A notification to SAC-COC means we send them a letter and our obligation is over, which is nice, except they never used to require us to tell them about modes of delivery changes. So when we applied to become to offer our first online program in 2002, they said, yes, you seem to have the infrastructure, you seem to understand how to manage these. You may offer your first online program and then add as many as you want without telling us. Now, 20 years later, they say to us, nope. Every time you add a new program to that list of 35 that you already have, send us a letter, please, and tell us we've added another one, and we've added another one, and we've added another one. So when they published this in December of 2021, we immediately became obligated to give them a new list of anything that hit that benchmark of being online, 50% or more, starting in January. So some of you may remember that in the past few months, we asked you to go through your list of online courses and tell us the first time that you offered something online. Because in our calculation, it no longer just mattered what percentage of your courses were online, but when you marched across that line. So in all of the work that we did, reviewing all of the programs and all of the concentrations and all of the certificates that we have on campus, we ended up sending SAC-COC a letter about 2 programs. But we now know where we stand with all of them. We now have a really good record and can track things moving forward. So big production, little bit of effort, but we're in compliance, and that's good. The first 3 new off-campus instructional sites require what's called an extensive review. It used to be, again, with SAC-COC, that when you opened up a new site, you had to do what's called a prospectus and describe the site to them. Tell them how this new location was an appropriate place to instruct students. Again, are you taking care of the students, or are you taking care of the faculty? Now, they want to do, in most cases, an on-site review of that instructional site for the first 3 that you add now in the near future. So if anyone is thinking about, I know we're thinking a lot more about online learning, but if you're thinking about going to students in any particular place and doing a face-to-face delivery of a program, it's likely that that is going to involve a visit from a SAC-COC review team. And that will be true for the first 3 new sites that we open up. We have opened up new sites in the past 3 or 4 years. We offer programs up at North Campus, which is up near Brown, it's in Brown Summit. We have an MSA that's up there. And you all know in nursing, when we opened up Union Square, that's a new site for us, even though it's just a couple miles off campus. It's not considered part of the main campus. It's a new site for us. That would have involved bringing a team, if we'd done it recently, that would have involved bringing a team and having them review the site before they would even give us the approval to start offering classes there. So this is new for SAC-COC. I'm not looking forward to our first extensive review, but I have a feeling that it's on the horizon for us. Yes.
Do they count, like Union Square, for instance, we did have a SAC-COC team.
Yeah.
Remember?
Yep.
So that doesn't count, though?
It sure doesn't. No, indeed. The clock for this started in December of 2021.
And so if we decided to have a new program at Union Square.
We can add a new program there.
Square is already taken
Yes.
care of.
But that would be a situation where we'd have to notify SAC-COC that we've opened up a new program there. So if you do start offering new programs, additional programs there, it is something that we have to let them know. So even if a different department, like say kinesiology, started to offer a significant part of their program at Union Square, we would have to send SAC-COC a notification. So yeah, and again, this is forced by the Department of Education. They're saying you need to know how big a site is getting and whether all of those students are taken care of. So it's just a lot more scrutiny that we're being held accountable for. They have finally defined that new content is 50% of credits for new programs and that this requires approval from SAC-COC. So you all know we have a substantive change checklist that we ask you to complete anytime you go through new programs, new concentrations, that sort of thing. This is what we're really trying to identify, is whether the new content in your program exceeds 50% or more. And I'm going to tell you, we just had a concentration come through that we thought might have 50% new content. It's video gaming. It's a video gaming concentration. And it included proposals for a bunch of new courses. We had 6 or 7 new courses come through. And we said to them, how much of the content in this courses has not been taught at UNCG before? And they were like, well, in 3 of the classes, most of it is. It's just going from a 100 level course to a 300 level course, and we're really refining the focus and talking about critical thinking about this particular content. It's a new course with a different title, but really we've taught this before. That's not new content. So when you're proposing a new course that's going to be integrated into a new program, we'll have those conversations with you. And what they ended up doing for us was putting together a table of the old course, the new course, and the similarities between them, the movement or the development of the content and how it related to existing content. And we were able to write a justification, save the evidence, and be able to say to SAC-COC, if they ever asked us, why didn't you seek a substantive change for this program, that we had done our due diligence and that we understood it not to be new content. Approval items considered by the SAC-COC Board of Trustees only in June and December is new. You know, we were talking about timelines for the university, for the UNC system. SAC-COC has timelines too. They've got deadlines. You've got 2 opportunities to get approval from the Board of Trustees. And that causes us, you know, to do some reverse engineering to align our timelines, hopefully, with what theirs is. But this can impact when you start a program. SAC-COC wasn't able to get it on their agenda, or we missed the deadline for submission. That's usually what happens. I've never had a situation where SAC-COC said, sorry, the agenda's too big. It's always you missed the deadline, and that's why you'll be on December instead of June. So we've got to keep that in mind. And Kate and I work diligently with anyone who has to go to SAC-COC for approval to help them understand those deadlines and do everything we can on our end to manage that timeline. And then finally, this is one that we might need to be aware of for the future, maybe not the near future, but competency-based education and prior learning assessment programs are substantive changes. This does not mean courses. So we're going to start looking at processes to maybe do competency-based or prior learning assessment for the general education program, MAC. You know, we have a lot of students who bring in like speaking experience from other work, other programs that they've done. And we want to be able to say to them, we've evaluated that work and we can in fact give you 3 credits for CST 105 and move you on.
Like RN-BSN program, because I served at the university, at the system competency-based, and they always were targeting those RN-BSN programs. If we were to do that, not in the math, would that have to do that? Or is
It
that
would,
okay?
yes, for sure. So if we go to a competency-based program where you're moving the student through the program and giving them a degree based on previous competency, prior learning, that would absolutely be a substantive change. And again, what SAC-COC would be asking is, what are your processes? Like our currency at the university is a credit hour. How do you know you should be handing out those credits to that student? What is your evaluation process? What are your criteria? Are you consistently applying them? What's the evidence that students are producing? Is this really, if you're going to hand out those credits and you're going to hand out those degrees, you better make sure.
I'm thinking more of expedited, like you come in and nursing's 340, but you can demonstrate the skills. So instead of a 15-week course, you can finish it in 3.
Yeah.
That's what I'm thinking.
That's a
more.
course. That's not a program.
So that's not a program, so that wouldn't be with prior, so we can make a competency curricula quicker, like get them through a program quicker without going through all this?
Yes, because it's not a competency-based program. They're still going through our curriculum and they're still taking our classes and they're earning our credits. That would be more of a course-based competency evaluation. Yeah.
Okay.
Yes.
However, we are all schools of nursing who are accredited by CCA. We have these new major guidelines.
Okay.
Our major nursing organization, American Association Colleges of Nursing, and they have an accreditation arm. So they're requiring us now to change our nursing education to competency-based, but it's not, it doesn't mean that it's all based on prior learning.
Right.
So,
They still are earning credits from the university, right? So this is the difference. In competency-based learning, you don't need a credit hour in order to graduate. In competency-based learning, you demonstrate a skill or a component of knowledge and you earn your diploma based on that. It's different if it's a credit hour. So if the currency that we're talking about is a credit hour, it's not a competency-based program.
okay.
There's competency-based assignments and assessments
Yep.
within each course.
Yep.
And then they meet that competency, they get the 3 credits.
Yep.
That's not a program.
Yep.
Even though we're going to do that for every course in the program.
Will they actually have to take courses?
Yeah, the actual courses, they're
Right.
given credit, they
But-
need the credit.
But they'll be able to demonstrate prior learning and move
With
themselves
assessments, with
past.
skills assessments, a
Yeah.
test perhaps.
Yep.
Yeah.
But the entire degree wouldn't be based on, give us a portfolio and we'll give you a diploma.
Prior learning's applied to, can you meet a competency?
Right.
Getting credit for something,
Yep.
not waiving a course.
Yeah, so, and the challenge is the word competency. In every class, you're demonstrating competency. That's how you earn your grade. I am competent enough to get an A. I'm competent enough to get a C. You're demonstrating competency. The question is whether the student is actually getting credit for a course or not. And if it's a course, then it's not the competency-based program.
Got it.
Okay. There's an institution in, I think it's in Minneapolis, called Alverno College. Their students don't get any grades. They turn in a portfolio or they demonstrate learning and they move through their degree based on that specific competency. No grades, no credits. That's competency-based learning, like at its most pure delivery. I think I have to let my PowerPoint catch up with me. Oh, it fell asleep. Wake up. Okay. There we go. Okay. So here are institutional obligations. I've used the words notify and I've used the words approval. And this is what SACS-COC says. Sometimes we tell you you have to notify us. Notify means, as I mentioned, you send a letter and your obligation is done. We don't have to wait for anything from SACS-COC when we notify. In other instances, we have to get approval. When we have to get approval, you cannot implement the change until we have the letter back from SACS-COC that says the Board of Trustees has approved you. You may go ahead and do that. If you go ahead and read the 80 pages of the substantive change policy, you'll see they very clearly say this is a notification or this is approval. They're not hiding it. We know exactly the kind of actions that are going to be notifications and those that are going to be approval. You guys don't have to worry about that until we tell you it's approval, guys. This is a big thing. And with approvals, you have to submit what's called a prospectus. It's a very long dossier where you include a lot of evidence and answer a lot of questions about your accountability and your ability to deliver the quality of learning for students and the support for faculty that our accrediting body wants to see. So the approval process is not just waiting and getting on the agenda, but there's a lot of work and a lot of accountability that goes into something that requires approval on your behalf. For the most part, when we notify SACS-COC, what you've done through the curriculum review process is all you need to do. And SACS-COC says we must have a policy that explains this to everyone, and we have to ensure that all substantive changes are reported in a timely fashion. This is why we do these every year, because leadership changes, people get new responsibilities, and people who might have known in depth our substantive change obligations here at the university are no longer in those roles. So we want to make sure annually we share this information. The bottom line is talk to my office. If you are doing something new with a program other than just putting, a course through the curriculum review process, please talk to us. We'll ask you to do a substantive change checklist. If we have questions about the answers you provide, we'll follow up and we'll figure out the right path forward. And we try our best to make it as uncumbersome as we possibly can. But you are the experts, and we need your partnership in doing these things. So this is what our substantive change submissions have looked like over the past 3 years. And
Nursing.
yeah, I know. I know. So we've jumped from 8 to 15 in 2 years. We've essentially doubled it. And they've only grown. I mean, when you look at what we were doing, 8 years ago, there was a time when we might do 1 or 2 substantive changes. There was a time where we were closing a lot of programs, and closings are substantive changes too, and you'd see that peak as well. But this is what we've been doing. This is an important policy, and we give SACS-COC a lot of activity when it comes to substantive changes. But this is also because we are sure we are compliant. We are following the letter of the law. We're consulting SACS-COC when we need to, and we're making sure that UNCG is clearly in line with our obligations. We put this reminder down at the bottom. Substantive changes must be implemented within 2 years of approval. So when the Board of Trustees of SACS-COC says, yep, you can go ahead and open that site needs to be open in 2 years. If we cannot get it open in 2 years, we have to go through the process again. And that's just to make sure that the information we shared is current, is up to date. So when you come to us and say, we're doing this, you need to be ready to do it. You need to be on the verge. Okay, so I want to bring to your attention some of the most common substantive changes that we do here at UNCG so that you know what they might look like. Offering a new method of delivery, I mentioned. So that's moving from a face-to-face to an online delivery for a program, not for a course, but for a curriculum, a program. We close programs, off-campus sites, and modes of deliveries with some frequency. And that's where you see some of the numbers. We have closed programs that used to be all face-to-face. They added an online version and then decided, you know what, our students only want to learn online. We're closing our face-to-face program. We did that recently. And that's an action that SAC-COC requires. We have to close that version. And one of the really important things with closing a program, just so that you know, we had a wonderful program coordinator email their students and say, we're not going to offer this program anymore, so you're going to need to pick a different concentration to get yourself into. You can't do that. Let me tell you why. We have made a commitment to students when we admit them into a program that they are going to be able to complete that program. When you close a program, the fundamental question that we have to answer for SAC-COC is, how are you going to let the rest of the students already in that program finish? How are you going to support them through to the end because you admitted them in that way? Now, we could say, go take those classes at A&T and we'll transfer those classes back and we'll give you your diploma. Making an arrangement with another institution to allow the students to complete that education is perfectly acceptable. What most often we're going to do is find a way to substitute courses or to offer those courses to those last few students in that program to make sure that they can get through to the end.
Can we continue the same method you had and only admit new students in the new substantive
Yes.
change way?
Yeah.
Because that's another way we can
Yep.
just keep them in our current, this is a face-to-face or hybrid program. If we get an emergency extension, everyone is happy, that's what they signed in for.
Yep.
And they'll only be the first new group that'll be in the new one.
And what we had with the face-to-face closing was that they said to the students, do you want to finish face-to-face or do you want to move into the online program? And 100% of them said, we'll do it online. And they were able to close the program right away because the students said, we want this other thing instead. And that was perfectly acceptable.
But like in the case of international students,
Yes,
We have one
that's
international.
the problem, because they,
that's a problem. They have to get face-to-face learning. They can't move into your new mode
unless they went home.
unless they went home and learned online. Yeah. So that's an option too. And then third, initiate a new program that's a significant departure from existing programs. We're going to talk about significant departure. Significant departure is something that's different in the UNCG's mission, okay? It's something that's different in terms of resources. So this is an example of a significant departure. What percentage of a program's content is considered new? And we talked about this a little bit. 50% is the line that you cross to become substantive change with new program content. And again, I mentioned new program means something that we haven't taught here at UNCG. Again, it moves our mission. It kind of pushes the boundaries of what we've already done. We stood up a PhD in business administration 5 or 6 years ago, and we thought to ourselves, well, that's not going to be a substantive change because we've got an MBA, we've got graduate faculty, we've got plenty of resources. The business administration content is largely just an advanced level of the MBA with a dissertation tacked on, and SAC-COC said no. They said, you have to show us that you've got faculty to populate those committees, step students through doctoral dissertation work. If you're telling us that it's just the MBA classes with doctoral students in it, you truly aren't offering doctoral level content. So you've got to show us that you've got all of the resources and all of the advanced level of learning to offer this program. So something that we thought was very clear, no, this isn't a substantive change, not new to us, doesn't really push our boundaries. They said, oh yes, indeed it is. So just something to think about. We always talk to SAC-COC about these questions. If it falls between 25 and 49% of new content, which the video gaming concentration that I mentioned to you in fact does, we send a notification, we send a letter, and we say, we've got some new content, they're doing something interesting, hasn't hit the 50%, we're all set. 50% or more, we have to do that prospectus. We have to demonstrate to SAC-COC that we've got all the resources, we've got the level of learning, we've got the commitment to get students into this program and graduated, keeping the integrity of the program that's proposed. But significant departures push our mission. So let's say we started to offer a degree in right, pharmacy, pharmacology, right? We decide to offer a PharmD. That's completely outside our mission. If we decide to offer an engineering program, completely outside our mission. Clearly substantive changes. But as I mentioned, with like a doctorate in business administration, it's not always seeming to rewrite the mission of the university. Sometimes it's rewriting the resources and the level of learning that they expect. Yes, please, Kathy.
That's related to content change,
Yep,
not organization within the program.
right. So give me a little bit more specifics, though.
So, for instance, if we took our pre-licensure undergraduate BSN program
Okay?
and blew up the curriculum, and we're still delivering the content, but it's organized differently.
Okay.
It's possibly delivered differently, and that's another thing. But we're still meeting.
It's still a BSN program.
It's still pretty much the same content in the end.
Yes. An example where I would have to answer that's a substantive change to a similar question might be if you were going from a theory-based to a practice-based program. So if you were doing social work theory as opposed to social work practice, changing that curriculum can be a substantive change because it's a completely different set of faculty. People who get involved in the practical part of social work are practitioners. And you want people who are licensed social work, who are teaching those students about the practice of social work. And you've got internships and you've got those sorts of things. Versus the theory of social work, which might involve books and reading and theory and conversation, which might be taught by PhDs in social work as opposed to MSW practitioners. That would be different, and that could be a substantive change. SAC-COSA could say, you need a completely different set of faculty and a completely different, you've got to create these partnerships out in the community to place students in internships and that sort of thing. So a reorganization could be a substantive change, but what you're describing doesn't seem like it is.
Okay. I mean, there would be some parts that definitely might be in some courses, depending on the percentages.
But it's a restructuring
Well,
to get them to the same place.
it could be some may move online, some may move,
yeah.
so there's a lots of moving parts.
And you're already approved for online delivery of that, the RN to BSN program. So we should be good there.
Right,
Yep.
yeah.
So we should be fine.
But what about, because that's really part of the BSN program, does SAC-COC see the RN to BSN separate from our traditional pre-licensure BSN?
It's a concentration, but so we'd have to get into the specifics. The RN to BSN students all end up with a BSN. Right. So they all get the same degree. There's just a different curricular path. Right. The RN students bring in particular courses, and you've adjusted some of the content for some of your courses in the BSN program to accommodate that previous learning. So it's slightly different. The courses are slightly different. The curriculum is largely the same, though. Mm-hmm. So
the curriculum is, I mean, the content, you could say might be the same, but they have completely different
courses. It's right, but the content is the same. You're not teaching them different nursing.
Right.
So in most cases, what we get approved for the RN to BSN can apply to the BSN, and it could be a notification if your wholly BSN, your 4-year BSN students are going to be doing something. But we want to look at it really specifically. And I'd probably go to SAC-COC and say, hey, this is what we said to you in the past, and this is what you said back to us. Does that cover us for these changes that we're putting in place, or do we need to do something else here? So we'd have those conversations once we know exactly the questions that we need to ask SAC-COC. So keep us posted. Yeah. And I always err on the side of caution. Always, always, always. At the same time, I don't want to do more work than I have to. And SAC-COC is honest with us. They're like, look, don't send us a letter for everything. We don't need to know about a lot of stuff. and you're just slowing us down to help other institutions that really need our attention. So we are not afraid to send an email and say, hey, this is the situation. Sometimes there's a back and forth, sometimes there's a phone conversation, and sometimes it's flat out, no, don't tell us about that. You go and do what you got to do. So we always try to keep us straight, and I appreciate all of these questions because that's going to help us keep us straight too. So as you move forward, bring these things to us. I wanted to just give you an idea of other substantive changes out there that other institutions go through. Just to give you an idea of the range of things, God, I hope I never have to go through a merger consolidation substantive change with SAC-COC. The amount of work that involves between the two institutions and the visits, it almost becomes like a new reaccreditation for the institution. And rightly so, rightly so. If we were to acquire another institution, say there was a school that was struggling and we said, you know what, we can take on that administration and those programs and those faculty, and it becomes a better situation for the university, that would absolutely be a substantive change. Level change would be if we ever decided to offer associate's degrees. Someone has asked this question. Could we offer associate's degree? Yeah, once SAC-COC says we can. So that would be big too. How are we going to admit those students? How are the courses going to be different? What are your student support? Like, they're very concerned about the student support that level of degree might otherwise require. So a level change down or up would matter. If we didn't offer any doctoral programs and wanted to, that would be a level change up. Change of governance. So if we did away with our board of trustees and replaced it with some other version, if the board of governors became the sole level of governance that we had, that would be a governance change. These are all really big examples. There are lots of other smaller things that we do too that we've talked a little bit about, more day-to-day kind of operations. So I had mentioned pre-baccalaureate certificates. Or certificates coming to the undergraduate population is something that we had a long time ago. We had one in computer science. And when we came up for our reaffirmation in 2014, the person who preceded me in this job said we need to get rid of that. That's not something that we should be doing. So we stopped offering it, and we'd never actually had anyone enroll and graduate in that certificate. So it was kind of a project that really got started. They are now something that's real here at UNC Greensboro, and we've got pre-baccalaureate certificates going through the curriculum review process. This is not a level change for us because all of those courses are embedded in current baccalaureate degree programs. It's not a different level. It's not an associate's degree. It's merely a packaging of undergraduate credits into this credential, this actual certificate. But a certificate, as I mentioned when we started, is a credential. So while a student the certificates are embedded in current degrees, and a student could finish that certificate but not finish the baccalaureate's degree, they leave UNCG with the credential. They get that certificate whether they graduate or not, if they've completed the requirements for it. So this will be for undergraduates. They'll actually get a credential. If you are thinking about proposing a pre-baccalaureate certificate, it needs to have a specialized set of student learning outcomes, knowledge or skills. So it has to be organized in some kind of program that gives the students some kind of mastery, expertise in something, and that becomes a certificate, something that they can say to someone inside or outside of the university. This is what I know, this is what I can do. And finally, it has to be at least 12 credits. So it's got to be 4 3-credit courses to create a pre-baccalaureate certificate. And as I mentioned, we've got a number of these moving through the system. We also have a number of new minors making their way through the system. And I think that this conversations around pre-baccalaureate certificates kind of fed into, do we want a minor? Do we want a certificate? Do we want both? Someone asked me recently, which one's better? I said, well, neither one's better. You can't get a minor without getting a 4-year degree, so that's different from a pre-baccalaureate certificate. But sometimes programs want you to have a minor. Like, it's just great while you're here, you can organize your electives into some other kind of specialization, and that's what a minor does. A minor has a little bit more flexibility. Sometimes you'll see a minor that says take 15 credits from the Department of Geography, and you can have a minor, that kind of thing. So certificates are very focused and intentional. I'm not saying minors are not, but we intentionally put certificates together to make sure that they're focused. They give the students a specialized set of knowledge that they can actually speak to and point to as some sort of expertise. So I talked a bit about this earlier. Adding online delivery to programs means that we may have to go through a notification to SAC-COC. 50% calculation, this is really important, is based on the delivery method of courses that can count toward the program. Even if a course is only offered once online, it's counted in the calculation. And that is because SAC-COC's position is if you have one student that could be your online learner for that program, you have to make sure you can support them. And support means academic support. It means student support, like if they needed to know how to submit a student complaint. How do you deliver that to an online learner in that program? If they needed counseling resources, how would they know whether they're eligible for those resources or not? So SAC-COC is very concerned that every student be taken care of, and that's why if you offer one course in the summertime, because one instructor was traveling and needed to teach the course online, you have now offered that course as online and it becomes part of your calculation. And people have said to me, well, how do I get it off the list? The only way you can get it off the list is if you don't offer it online for 7 or 8 or 9 years. And we can legitimately say to SAC-COC, no student can pass that 50% threshold because the courses have not been offered in that format for many, 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 many years. They would have, every student would have graduated who might have done that. Lynn?
And then the definition of if one of those courses is online is 50% or more of the instruction of that course.
Yes.
So it's like a double dip?
Yep.
What if-
Well,
See,
it's the same philosophy. If 50% of your content is offered online, it's a mostly online course. We used to at UNCG have like this hybrid, part web, part face-to-face course type. We don't have that anymore. We have either face-to-face or online. But the benchmark that we've used is if the course is 50% online, we have to call it an online program. We have to treat it as such for our program calculations in order to respect what the student needs to get out of the university and out of the program. Okay. And this is just a reminder, December 2020 was that line in which SAC-COC drew that timeline and said, okay, after this point, you need to tell us about a program. So starting now, if any program crosses that 50% line, we're sending a notification. And I think it's really important too. We held a couple of information sessions with people who we said to them, your program's 50% online. We're putting you on our distance education list. We're not sending you to SAC-COC because it happened prior to December 2020, but you're now going to show up on this list. And they were like, whoa. We don't want an online program. That's not who we are. That's not who we want to be. And my message to them is, you're not. We're not telling you to now recruit online students, and we're not telling you to market yourself as an online, and we're not telling you now have to offer 50% of your courses always, always, always online and allow students a mode to move through. What we're saying is what you've done with your courses have put you in a situation where we've got students on campus who could graduate from your program having taken the majority of their courses online. And SAC-COC says, you've got to acknowledge it. Like putting this program on this list means we acknowledge those students could do that online. And we have to own that and be accountable for that and take responsibility. So that if a student who might be in English, who somehow managed to put together 50% of their credits online, we can say to them, we can say to SAC-COC, it's okay. That student was able to get to the resources. They had the technology they needed. The faculty who taught online had the support and the resources that they needed. It's okay. We can take care of them. So that's what that is about. It's accountability for the institution. This is what a notification letter, if you end up on that list, I don't want you to panic. You don't have any additional obligations other than to maybe become aware of online resources for students who might be in that situation. We send a very basic letter that says this is what's happening. This letter happens to be the one where we closed the face-to-face delivery for the MSA program. Again, we do not have to wait for SAC-CSC to accept the notification before we do anything, and you as programs that maybe now find yourselves on that distance education list don't have to do anything. The university is taking care of it. The interesting thing really is that, as I mentioned, in 2002, when we got that approval, it was an institutional evaluation. Are you institutionally ready to do this? And the answer was yes. And I think we've gotten only better. I hope that that's the case. Need to bring to your attention closing a program. As I mentioned, closing a program, closing a site, closing a method of delivery. It requires the same level of scrutiny and approval as beginning a new program. And I mentioned this because I said to you, there was someone who closed their program with an email to students. And that's not really how you close a program. To officially close a program, it has to go through the curriculum review process. It has to be evaluated, make sure that your department's on board, your unit is on board, and the institution is on board. And then we in the background have to go and make sure that we've tended to the UNC system obligations and the SAC-CSC obligations related to listing that program as an option for students. The reason that we actually found out about that email was the question came to us, how do we get this taken off the admissions list? How do we stop admissions from telling students that they can have this? Well, you can't. The way you do that is to go through the curriculum review process. And when it's been officially closed by the university, by the UNC system office, and by SAC-CSC if required, then we communicate with admissions and say, take that program off of the list and stop advertising it and stop making it available. The SAC-CSC definition of closure means you've closed it to admission or entry. We have a theater program, the directing program at the master's level is closing because the Taylor Theater is going through renovations, and they don't know if they're going to, well, they know right now they don't have the resources to allow those students to learn and direct as they need to, and they also aren't sure that they're going to re-up it when the Taylor Theater is completely revised. So they've said we have to stop admissions to this until we're certain. So we're going to go ahead and close that. When you close a program, if you decide within 5 years that you want to reopen it, that's a very easy action. So when people come to me and they're very anxious about what this means to close a program, because those of you who've started new programs know it's not easy to start them through the UNC system or through SAC-CSC, I can reassure them we can reopen it within 5 years, as long as you make the decision within that window.
When does
Yes.
that 5 years start?
It starts from the time that SAC-CSC approves it.
Okay.
So if SAC-CSC approves it for fall of 2023, that starts your 5-year window. So you'd have until fall of 2020.
Concentration that we had closed, but SAC hasn't given the letter yet.
Right.
So that might be 23.
It might. Exactly. Yep. I've used the term teach-out plans. Teach-out plan must be submitted. A teach-out plan is this document right here where we tell SAC-CSC how we're tending to students, how we're tending to faculty, what the impact is going to be on resources. So again, the focus for SAC-CSC when we close something is how are you tending to the students? How are you taking care of them and letting them do what you promised them they could do? And what are you going to do with the faculty? How have you communicated to them? How have they been engaged in the process, and where will they be reallocated? Or how have they been told they won't be reallocated? So the teach-out plan is to make sure that we're doing the right thing for students and faculty. SAC-CSC says tell us as soon as you know. So if today you have decided we're not admitting another student to the MFA in creative writing program, you have to tell me like right away. The decision's made, we have work that we have to do. And then again, reminding you, this comes from the Department of Education, and their concern is treating students well, okay? So people think that these are administrative hurdles that we're forcing them, and SAC-CSC is micromanaging. This is about making sure we're doing right by the students, okay? So just a reminder, we close programs that can include degrees, majors, certificates, and standalone concentrations in nursing. We always talk about the anesthesia program as a standalone. Like that's it's a concentration, but it's a completely different curriculum from all of the other nursing programs. We treat the anesthesia program, which is a concentration, as its own program and communicate it as such to SAC-COC. So if we ever did anything with that program, we'd have to talk to SAC-COC about it. Again, closing modes of delivery, we've talked about closing instructional sites, and including closing a program at an instructional site. So if kinesiology went to Union Square and then decided to close itself, we would have to communicate that program at that site is closing. Okay? So
If we were to close Union Square for budget reasons and pull it
Closure.
back, that would have to be
it would,
everything would stay the same, we're just moving them a mile down the road.
yeah, that's exactly right. It's exactly right. Yep. It's a pretty significant production, closing a place.
Wow.
And that would be a really interesting one because of everything that Union Square offers
Yeah, with the resources.
with the resources.
Yeah.
SAC-COC would be like, okay, we understand your program has to change, but exactly how much is it going to change if you move it from one place to the next?
But parking is free over there.
Interestingly, I think that would be one thing where SAC-COC would be like, parking.
Students, not so much.
Right. So the importance of substantive change identification, we have always, we used to start with this slide. If we don't report substantive changes, this is what can happen to us. As time goes on and my wounds have healed, I've moved this farther down into the presentation because I don't want to lead with this. What I want to lead with is when we take care of this, we're in a good place. We didn't take care of it at one time, and we had issues. We were monitored by SAC-COC. We also, the fourth bullet point is financial aid reimbursement and other negative consequences. We returned $54,000 of aid to the Department of Education, federal aid, that had gone to students who were registered in a program that had not been approved to be at an off-campus site. And it was because someone in leadership had just decided that would be a cool place for them, for those students to take their classes. It's more efficient for the students. They're off campus. It's just a more pleasant environment. Let's just teach everything out there. And every penny that we'd give, those students had gotten from the federal government as aid had to be paid back by the institution. Not by the students, by the institution. So just keep that in mind. Keep us in tune with what's going on, and we should be fine. So just a reminder, I've sort of mentioned this as we've gone along. How can you help? Be aware of the policies. You're here. That's a great thing. We have a substantive change policy that's about a page and a quarter. And really it just says we follow SAC-COC substantive change, and this is what substantive change can look like. Go ahead and read it. Just have these things that we've talked about today in your mind. The questions you've been asking are great. So as you're going through these curriculum changes, ask yourself these questions. Do I need to talk to Jody? Do I need to talk to Kate about what I'm doing here? We have a substantive change checklist that asks, that is a great starting place for that conversation. Sorry about that. It's a great starting place for the conversation. So fill that out. It gives Kate and I a little bit of information to do a little bit of research, figure out what questions we have to form to follow up with you, and submit that. If you have any questions in the meantime, let us know. But always, always, always talk to Kate or I before you make any changes. Not before you talk about them, but before you make any changes. And this bottom line, if you suddenly realize, oh my God, this was definitely a substance. Like, I've had people sit in this room and come up to me afterward and say, Jody, I think we did something. Okay, it's done. Now what do we do? What do we do to recover? And that's what's really important. Since I have your attention, and since it's relevant to our accreditation position with SAC-COC, I wanted to encourage you if you need to publish the institution's accreditation status, I'm going to encourage you not to duplicate our accreditation page that explains everything that we are told must be included in such a statement. I'm going to encourage you to just use the link and link to this page. We've had people try to recreate this in trifold kind of advertisements, except they like to shorten it because it's a lot of words, and you can't shorten it. SACS-COC says, nope, you tell them everything or you tell them nothing. So I'm going to encourage you to just use that link. They get everything they need, and you save publication space and website space and all of that kind of thing. It's one less thing you have to maintain. I need for you all to know that we're preparing for our reaffirmation in 2024. Our report is going to be submitted a year from, it'll 11 months, not 10 months now. From now, we will have submitted our report. That goes through an initial read, and then we will have an on-site visit March 18th through 21st, 2024. If you're doing things like the nursing group may be involved in Union Square conversations. They may visit that site, even though they visited it just last year. But if you're involved in assessment, in anything, you may be asked to have conversations about the work that we do here that demonstrates compliance for our accreditation. For every reaffirmation, the university has to complete what's called a QEP, a Quality Enhancement Plan. UNCG's topic is holistic wellness. Hopefully you'll be hearing a lot about that in the coming months. Yeah, Kathy. So hopefully there'll be a lot of conversation about holistic wellness in the coming months and what that may mean. Okay, I'm going to stop there. You've been asking questions all along, which is fantastic. So stop and take a breath. Anything else? And I love answering questions in the midst of it. That's how I like. But sometimes you need to stop, and people who might have been mulling something might take a minute. Rachel. Yeah. And we're going to make this PowerPoint available to all of you. I'll distribute it. This has active links in it that will get you to checklists and calendars and websites and that sort of thing. So we'll share that. But yeah, our big dates are the reports due September 23rd. We're working with a September 1 date. We really want to ship it on September 1st. I think we might have a few more days than that, but I'm not keeping that in my mind. It's really September 1. It's off this campus. And then we'll have a team of somewhere around 10 people do the visit in March of 2024. And then they'll give us a report. We might have to respond to some things. Last time we had 2 recommendations that we needed to respond to. And we'll turn that in 5 months after the visit. And hopefully in December of 2024, we will find out that we're reaffirmed. So the big date for me, that goal line, is December of 2024.
Do we pay for all this like we do for our accreditation?
Sure do.
So we pay for the team to come?
Yep.
The hotel, the food?
Yep. Yes, ma'am.
Wow.
Last time we did it in 2014, we were so excited. We had a team of 7, which is so much smaller. I've been on teams of 15. We ended up with 7, and we were so happy because that's 1 less hotel room and 1 less meal. And
Person's money.
every person is money. And then they added an observer to our team. And the university has no obligation to pay for anything for the observer. Ha, ha, ha.
Oh.
Yeah, this goes down really well when you're like, hey, so we'll be covering the 7 of you for dinner, and here's your bill for your meal. Like, how does that look? So, yeah, I'm really hoping we don't get an observer in 2024. I really am. And the frustrating thing about observers, I don't know if yours have done this, but they wanted different things. They were like, hey, can someone give me a tour of this other thing? Yeah, so, but say yes. Put a smile on and say yes. Okay, so the UNC system, moving on to the UNC system, processes and forms. We like to take this opportunity to update you on the fun things that the UNC system is doing that can be shared publicly. So proposing a new program, adding new modes of delivery, discontinuing programs, all have forms that have to be completed. These are all relevant to the questions that the institution considers for their decision-making process until they're not. And when they are no longer adequate to answer all of their questions, they give you yet another step or yet another form. So what we have gotten from the UNC system is this fun thing called a financial worksheet. And the financial worksheet is a drill down into the budget approach that you're taking for doing something, adding something new. So the new financial worksheet has actually two worksheets, one that asks you about your current program and one that asks you about the new program, and gives a somewhat easy way for the UNC system folks, and for our campus, quite honestly, to see whether a new program is going to cost you money, break even, or bring you profits. And that's really the bottom line, is if it's going to cost you money, how much is it going to cost you? If you're going to break even, good, now you're aware of it. If it's going to make you money, how much is it going to make you, and how are you going to handle that? Because making you money often costs you money, and they want to make sure that you've registered all of that. So it can be a good exercise. The struggle for us, this is one page from one of the 2 pages from the financial worksheet. The struggle for us has been that the UNC system has recently said to us, you maybe have to do this when you change mode of delivery. You always have to do it for new programs. You maybe have to do it for mode of delivery, but they're not quite sure when that maybe is engaged. So Kate and I were in a call with our 2 representatives at the UNC system office, and we said we need criteria. Like, this is no joke. You can't leave us hanging out there until 4 days before you need a worksheet and then tell us to go through this, because if you've looked at this worksheet, it's not an easy exercise. So they're working on getting us criteria. But what we did is, again, Rachel, these are active links. We created instructions for the worksheet. They didn't give us instructions. Their instructions were complete all the boxes that are relevant. Kate and I went through and developed detailed instructions line by line. So on this page, we take you through lines 1 through 25, and we tell you exactly what should be happening in every line. And on the next page, we take you through lines 1 through 24 and tell you exactly what should be happening on every line. And then we say, we will get into a Zoom and we will talk you through it. Everything we know, we're willing to share. What we don't know, we'll take to Jennifer Leong and her folks over in financials. And what she doesn't know, we'll ask the UNC system office. So we're going to help you complete this the best that we possibly can. Again, the bottom line is the system wants to know, if it costs you money, will you break even, or is it going to bring you some new resources? So the UNC system online delivery, what's really important here goes back to the audit that I talked to you earlier about with the crossing that 50% threshold. This is about marketing your program. If you want to market your program as an online option for students, we have to seek UNC system approval for it. This is different from when you've crossed that official line by SACCOC and we have to put you on the list whether you want to be there or not. So people have said to me, well, I've crossed that line. Can I now start recruiting as an online program? No. The answer is no. If you want to do that, you have to go through the UNC system office and you have to get added on their list of online approved programs. You can then market and recruit, admit, and offer a fully online program. So if you intentionally want to be offered as online, you need UNC system office. If it was just a matter of convenience and happenstance, you don't. Yes, Susan?
Word of mouth without formally advertising.
When students say to each other, you know, if you do this, you can actually get out of here without taking most of your courses face-to-face, that's not marketing.
Can we say we have submitted for approval?
Yeah, because that's what they're doing at UNC Charlotte.
Yeah.
I can just tell you they're SACS accredited, they
Yep.
have a PhD online program, and they are out there. I'm getting emails from people saying, by the way, we're under approval.
Yep.
Okay, so that's what I'm talking about. This is not, I'm not going to advertise, I'm just soft. Hey, colleagues.
It's that soft kind of thing. So Kate and I talked to the UNC system about this, and they said to us, why in the world would you tell students you have something if there's a chance we're not going to let you have it?
So they could get very mad if they were to hear. Should I go get Charlotte?
No. Because
They're
no, Kate and I said this to them. We're like, we've played your game and we've followed your rules and we don't advertise and other people do.
ECU just did it too.
And they were like, that seems like really bad business practice to us. And that was as far as they went. They didn't say, we'll call them, we'll contact them, we'll shut it down. They said, that seems like a really bad idea to us. So all I'm going to say to you is be judicious. Like,
Maybe nothing in writing.
maybe make some smart decisions here. Maybe be careful. Maybe don't take out a billboard.
Yeah. So when would you expect, like, for ours to be approved by the state so we could advertise?
When did we submit it?
We're
Yeah.
beating the deadline
Yeah.
as we speak. Like, I'm going to be doing a poll this afternoon.
So this is, hey, we'll be done in just a few minutes. There was a time when I would guess at the timeline. The UNC system, as I mentioned, has gone to more of a mode of group consultation. So where we used to talk to one person and ask them, where is this in the pipeline? And they would say to us, well, I'll get to that on Thursday. It's now, well, that's going to be on the agenda a week from Friday. And if it makes that agenda, if we're able to get through it on the agenda, then maybe 2 weeks after that, we might get you some feedback. So it's become really difficult for me to say, Susan, just how long it's going to take for something to go through. Now, I feel like, and I don't know if you're going to like this answer, I feel like it's safe saying within 6 months. But here's the problem, because anytime you want to do something in a different mode of delivery, there's 4 weeks of open commentary. That is an immovable timeline. So we submit it, the UNC system looks at it, asks us any preliminary questions. When they're happy with the proposal, it then gets distributed to all of the other UNC system schools. So all of your colleagues at Charlotte and ECU and Wilmington and everywhere else have an opportunity to comment on it. That 30-day period doesn't change, except when you're nursing and the UNC system loses one of your requests. Do you remember they did that? They lost one of your requests to move a program online. And I contacted them and I was like, you have had this for 10 weeks. And they were like, you tell no one and I'll hit the approve button.
In 6 months, we almost missed the deadline.
Yep.
We almost can't admit a full class.
So this is the problem. So I feel pretty safe saying within 6 months. Could it be 2.5 to 3? Yeah, it could be. Am I going to promise that they're going to be there for us and make it 2.5 months?
Oh, I get that.
I can't.
That's why that's so off word of mouth.
Yeah.
Really critical.
Yeah. Yep.
Without anything in writing. Because that's how we recruited our current cohort.
Yeah.
With personal connection and contact.
So that's it.
Okay.
Well, you could say we're trying to get it approved.
So what SACSCOC allows you to say is pending approval.
Yeah.
So if you use the term pending approval, we're seeking approval from the UNC system to do this.
So that's okay, pending approval. I know, I see what that says, but we're not advertising. I'm just thoughtful when we do it. Yeah, it'll be in person.
Pending approval.
It'll be in person.
Right. So I wanted to bring this item, this first bullet point, to your attention. We had been operating on the notion that they were reviewing programs only twice a year in November and in May. They told us, in fact, they've had a rolling review, but they are going to go to 4 to 5 times a year. So essentially, every quarter, there will be one meeting where the board considers new programs with an emergency 5th meeting in July. So if there are programs that really want to get started in the fall and you bring it to the attention of the UNC system office, they have said they're going to probably put in like an emergency or
And that's what we might be able to do.
essential in July.
So critical.
Yeah. So But they said, if we don't have your material 6 weeks before that meeting, it's definitely not making it on the agenda. So I just wanted to bring to your attention that this is what we're hearing from the UNC System Office. This is also really important for those people who aren't in STEM programs right now. If you are seeking change of your program SIP code, the SIP code is the categorization of instructional program code associated with every single program that's been approved by the Board of Governors. It's that code that we use to report it to the government for degree completion rates and that sorts of things. It is the currency for the system office for course funding. Every course has a SIP code, and funding is associated with that, so the SIP code is really important. If you want your program to move from a non-STEM to a STEM SIP, the UNC system now has this long list of responses that you must provide. So, and I also wanted to make you aware, just if we have another minute, there is something called a return on investment project that's going on. It was legislated by the NCGA, the General Assembly, North Carolina General Assembly, that the UNC system conduct this return on investment study to find out what the return on investment for a UNC system degree is for students, what it is for the state, and what the actual cost is per program for every UNC system institution. So these are the data that they're pulling together. And they hope to get us a report sometime in the spring. This is being led by 3 consulting companies. Deloitte is the top one, RPK is secondary, and then Burning Glass is the third group that's working on this. I'm the university's liaison to this project. It's been a lot of one-way communication, they are telling us what they need from us and how they're interpreting things. We're looking forward to contextualizing the data when they allow us to do that. But this will be coming too in the next year. Just a reminder, if you have any kind of curriculum proposal, our office is here to help. Lynn Wyrick, Kate Humphreys in my office, and then Ian Draves in the graduate school are happy to talk through any curriculum changes that you have. Remember, everything has to go through KIM, and we'll step you through the KIM system as well. If you've got curriculum deadlines that you have to meet, we will help in every way you can. So if you say to us something's stuck, help us move it along. We'll do everything that we can. We have this deadline of October 31st for anything you want to do in the 23-24 year. Please, please, please. We've heard that sometimes it's the unit that's holding things up. We're willing to work with this deadline. If you're not going to make our deadline because it's getting through your internal processes, we can make that a soft deadline. We can work with you. We just want you to understand why there's a deadline. We have to make sure that course scheduling and registration for students exists. We can't be adding courses in the midst of a scheduling process, and that's a big reason that we need to have courses done. You know, spring is being scheduled right now for students, so we need to make sure that things are in place. We need to make sure that everything's accurate in the catalog, so we just wanted to make sure y'all understood that. So I'll say thank you, stop you there. Kate and I oversee the substantive change stuff, so you'll get a lot of communications from Kate when you're taking a substantive change action. But Kate and I talk all the time. Anything that Kate sends to you has gone through my review, so making sure that you're getting the best possible information. You talk to us, we're going to help you the best we can. We're going to move the deadlines and facilitate things and make them as easy for you as we possibly can. So I know we went through that last part really quickly. Any questions about the UNC system office or, okay.
Just on the slide before you.
Yes. So Kim, the curriculum inventory management system, it's a product. CourseLeaf is the vendor that sells it to us, but CIM stands for Curricular Inventory Management System. And they call it KIM. I would pronounce it soft C, but that's who I am. But this is KIM. The KIM system replaced our paper forms and has made the workflow a little bit easier for us. But we're here to help. We know it can be frustrating. We think it's, when you use it, it's easy, but when you don't use it, it's not. You know, and a lot of people propose a course once. And, you know, in the 20 years they're here, I proposed a course once. So we understand, and we're going to do everything we can to get you through it. So we have, those of you who signed in, we are going to share with you this PowerPoint slide. It has active links to it, so you can get to the forms and the processes that we reference. Please contact me, please contact Kate. We're happy to answer any questions you have. All right? All right, thank you for coming.
Thank you. That was wonderful.
Good.